What's behind the church-going revival in the UK, particularly among Gen Z? Is that true? Are British
if you saw the state of our country right now, there's a lot to go and pray about. There'll be nothing more sinister than that.
That's it?
Oh. I know anything about it. You stump me on that
Kids
one.
are getting more religious? Is that what's going on?
I don't know. I didn't actually know that was a fact, but church going generally has been going down.
Is there a quiet revival happening of Christianity in the world, in the West in particular? Let's talk about it. Almost a year ago, I predicted that there was an uptick in Christianity. There were no evidence for it. There were no studies for it at the time. Let me know what you think, but I think something is happening right now in the culture. I am seeing this shift towards Christianity, towards these values, and people understanding this is, despite what Dawkins says, the bedrock of a moral world. And if it's the bedrock of a moral world, then maybe it's even more than that, or it should be more than that to me as an individual. But I predicted that we would see it. A lot of people in my comment section called me crazy. But then, not that long ago, I will link this video in the description, a New York Times article came out saying the decline of Christianity in the U.S. has halted. And so now, as people say, well, things are getting better in the U.S., but Christianity is just on a death march in Great Britain, it turns out that's not true either. Check this out. This is Glen Scrivener. He's an apologist for Christianity. He's going to talk about an article that Justin Brierly, another apologist, wrote.
Last year, The Spectator said its #1 most read article was by Justin Brierly, that a revival of Christianity is underway in Britain. Many people dismiss that because, well, Justin Brierly has a book to sell. His book is called The Surprising Rebirth of Belief in God, which spoke of key figures in the meaning crisis coming out on the side of Christianity, but it was very light on statistical data to support it. Last year, Justin was asked about the statistical backing.
And are there any stats, if we're going to have a kind of reason?
This is the thing, and the only stats I quote in the book are the ones that are contrary to my thesis. Yes, there are actually...
I love that. He says it. The only stats in the book are contrary to my thesis that there is this rebirth of belief in God. Because, like me, he also believed that he was seeing something personally before there were any studies done.
We know, well, that the decline in church-going, the decline in religiosity, the rise of the so-called nuns, people who don't claim any religious affiliation. So that's all out there. We can all see the statistics about church-going in the West. And what I present in the book, at least, is essentially just a sense that actually that might not be the full story, that actually there's a sense in which there's a turning of the tide. Now, that doesn't mean that we're seeing a wave coming back at us, but I feel like something has changed, and we might just be at the furthest end of that secularism before it comes back in.
Justin was sensing...
Yes, I love that. That's what I believed I was seeing too, which was, no, we're seeing the last territory gained by secularism, and we're seeing this pushback. I don't know. I don't think it's going to be this massive sweeping thing, and I don't think that's what we're seeing, but we are seeing the tide turning, and it's coming back in a way that we haven't seen in a very long time.
A change at the level of intellectual discourse about Christianity, and many of us on the ground have been sensing a change. There are more people showing up in church with not much of an idea why they are there. We have felt a vibe shift, but where is the data to back it up? The data is now in. There is a quiet revival that is happening in the UK. That is the name of the Bible Society's report, which was released today. It's called The Quiet Revival. They are comparing extensive survey data from 2018 with data that has just released. In 2018, YouGov surveyed 19,000 adults in England and Wales. And as a follow-up, YouGov have again surveyed 13,000 adults asking the same questions. This is very robust research, though it is about self-reports, and I'll talk about that at the end.
So this is the article. I'm going to break down the article through the rest of this video. So I'll break down every single part of this so you can see it, have it all here in one place. This is the Quiet Revival, and you saw that. Thousands of people being asked these questions in 2018 versus today, just 7 years later now. Church attendance has risen by 50% over the last 6 years, busting the myth of church decline. The findings come in the Quiet Revival, a survey commissioned by the Bible Society conducted by YouGov. Key findings from the Quiet Revival here. Well, before that, the most dramatic church growth is among young adults, particularly young men. In 2018, just 4% of 18 to 24-year-olds said that they attended church at least monthly. Today, says the Quiet Revival, this has risen to 16%. So from 4% to 16%. With young men increasing from 4% to 21% and young women from 3 to 12. Much lower numbers, or slightly lower numbers for women, but still an increase for them as well. Key findings. It says the report shows that what people believe about church decline is no longer true. It's so nice to see this stuff that we've been seeing on the ground getting vindicated by findings, actual studies being done. These are striking findings that completely reverse the widely held assumption that the church in England and Wales is in terminal decline. And that, that's the term I used in the beginning, that people have been saying Christianity in Europe is just like on a death march. It's just going to die over there. Islam will take over, secularism will take over, but Christianity's done. And that's not true. While some traditional denominations continue to face challenges, we've seen significant broad-based growth among most expressions of church, particularly in Roman Catholicism and Pentecostalism. There are now over 2 million more people attending church than there were 6 years ago. So the two biggest places that are seeing growth, this is fascinating, are Roman Catholicism and Pentecostalism. Now, I'm uniquely situated here to have a perspective on this because I was baptized as a baby and spent my earliest years in the Roman Catholic Church. And then later on, I was in a Pentecostal type, like evangelical church. What I think this is, before we go a little bit further, is there's a desire for realness, for authenticity in terms of like the structure of my beliefs. And that's a place where Roman Catholicism is very attractive. You have this church that's like, in many senses, it just doesn't change. It seems to be rooted in history. If I want Christianity, well, I want like the original church. And so people think Roman Catholic. Now, I think I could make an even better pitch that if you want the real original church, you should come to the Church of Christ, where I am a member, that we haven't had the changes that even the Roman Catholics have had, but we are just striving to be like the New Testament church in the first century and to build off of that framework and be everything that Jesus wants us to be. So there's no Pope in the Church of Christ or things like that. That stuff is all from later. It's not in the scriptures. That's at least what I would argue. But there is this idea that I want the original true thing. And I've seen that in a lot of people. What is Pentecostalism? Well, I think the thing that is attractive about Pentecostalism is that this is like real emotional experiences people have, these emotional breakthroughs people have. I would see this a lot when I was a member of a Pentecostal type church. There's this emotional breakthrough that you can have sometimes where you realize the depth of how much you need God and the depth of your sin. I mean, that stuff really gets confronted a lot in a Pentecostal church, and there is freedom to express your love for God there as well in a lot of different ways. I think that we're looking at like the logical side, the ultimate, the true ultimate oldest church is the way a lot of people think about Roman Catholicism. And then the other side is the emotional side, which both are things that people are hurting for in such a superficial, materialistic, fake society that we're living in. More men than women go to church. The Quiet Revival shows that men, 13%, are more likely to attend church than women, 10%. And as well, church decline being reversed. The church also becoming more ethnically diverse. That is cool. With 1 in 5 people, 19% coming from an ethnic minority. Close to half of young black people aged 18 through 34, 47%, are now attending church at least monthly, according to the Quiet Revival. It's also great to see the Bible reading and confidence in the Bible have increased as well as church growth. Some 67% of church-going Christians read the Bible at least weekly outside church. 67%. At least read the Bible weekly. Again, that is great. Those are great numbers in comparison to what used to be. The rise in regular church going. Okay, so check this out. This is the average. It went from 8% in 2018 to 12% in 2024. So from 8 to 12%, the average people. But look at the age breakdown here. From 18 to 24, it went from 4% to 16%. From 25 to 34-year-olds, 4% to 13, 35 to 44, smaller gap, and then it goes down from 45 to 54-year-olds. I'm very fascinated about that. Wonder why that is. 55 to 64 as well, it goes down, and then 65 plus, it goes up again, just like the rest of them. Really, really interesting. The question was that they were asked, apart from weddings, baptisms, christenings, and funerals, how often, if at all, did you go to a church service in the last year? So, how often did you voluntarily go to a church service, like a church worship service? Not a wedding, not a baptism, not a christening, not a funeral. Churchgoers are more likely to give to charity, it says here. We've already known that. Christians also report a higher life satisfaction than non-church goers, with a greater connection to their community and less stress and anxiety. That is so good. That is so true. I have seen this. There's so many people that say, I don't fully understand Christianity, but the fact that the life is better with Christianity tells me something about it. And maybe that indicates something about the truth within Christianity. If it's working so well, then maybe it's because it is true. Now, that is not the ultimate apologetical argument, but that is a solid one. And I've been making that argument for about a year now. I think that's what I've been seeing with conversions, both celebrity conversions and personal conversions of people that I've known in life. I think that's what I've been seeing, that there's this aimlessness, there's this dissatisfaction with life, even like to the extreme of nihilism. And Christianity, the fact that it works so well for people makes it so much more attractive. Maybe there's something to that. Why are people finding meaning at church? Quiet Revival co-author says that one of the possible reasons for church growth was that people were looking for meaning with much of the population struggling with mental health, loneliness, a loss of meaning in life, and particularly young people. Church appears to be offering an answer. We found that churchgoers are more likely than non-churchgoers to report higher life satisfaction and a greater feeling of connection to the community than non-churchgoers. They are also less likely to report frequently feeling anxious or depressed, particularly young women. Church is alive and well. Bible Society Chief Executive Paul Williams says the Quiet Revival is a highly significant report which should transform the perception of Christianity and church-going in England and Wales. Far from being on a slippery slope to extinction, the church is alive and growing and making a positive difference to individuals and society. There's a couple of stories here that I'll read, and I'll leave these in for the Patreon. Again, this article is linked in the description if you want to read this. This will be for the Patreon subscribers. If you want to support, the link is in the description below. For as little as $5 a month, you can support the channel, and I would appreciate your support. Now, with this, I saw that Gavin Ortlund has commented on this, and his final thoughts on this are very good. What do we do? What do Christians do? What should churches do about this? I think so much of his advice here is awesome. Check this out.
Let's forget about forgetting what is behind, striving toward what is ahead. As the church, let's forget about the pain of 2024 and the broken relationships of 2023 and the missed opportunities of 2022 and so on and so forth. We've been through a series of years here where there's been a lot of loss, there's been a lot of struggle in the church, a lot of discouragement. Now feels like the time to move forward. And there is this dynamic. If you're a discouraged pastor, if you're a Christian who feels a little bit beleaguered by the struggles of the last decade or so, now feels like a great time to say, let's seek a new work. Let's move forward. Let's focus on the future, striving toward what is ahead. Remember the scene in The Lord of the Rings where Sam and Frodo are almost to Mount Doom and they drop off all of their pots and pans and supplies and they just make a beeline for it. If it's not too strong, that's kind of how I feel in the moment to say, let's make a beeline to just be a part of what Christ is doing right now. It's an urgent moment. God is doing something. What does it look like to move into it and to embrace it and to say, like Elijah, let's steward this and seek the work of Christ in our time? I don't think it's wrong to kind of be excited and focus on this. I don't like the sensationalism that can accompany some talk about revival, but I also don't think it's wrong to say, hey, young people are spiritually open. Let's lean into that and let's speak the name of Jesus and let's speak the truth of the gospel, the good news that every single human being can know the Creator God through Jesus.
I love that so much. The main thing I think should be taken away from this is that Christians, especially churches in general, should not get behind the ball when it comes to this. And it happens so very often. We can be way too late on trends. And so I think that is one of the values, hopefully, of my channel or people like Gavin Ortlund's channel and other people, that as we see a trend coming, let's be proactive about it. Let's prepare for it. Let's get really active in evangelistic efforts to these groups that are clearly seeking and already making the transition or seeking to make the transition. Let's make it easier. Let's hold the door for them instead of making them open the door themselves. Let's seek them out. There is something happening in this time period, and even though we don't understand it, we see the pieces moving. So let's be there, facilitate this, and guide the pieces in the direction that God would have them to go. But if you are a member of a church, urge your leaders, and you be urgent in and of yourself in your own individual life to be very proactive about this, to act in faith, to seek these kinds of people out, and to see and not be so defeatist about Christianity and just saying it's just time to exist and it'll probably dwindle down to almost nothing and then one day it'll build back up. This is probably that time right now where this is great opportunity that is just in your lap of evangelism and reaching out to delicate souls that are tenderhearted, looking for the gospel, looking for meaning, fulfillment in life. And the best place that they could ever get that, the only true place where they can get that, is in Christ. So hurry up, go, be urgent, be excited, and go teach these people about Jesus. If you want the full video, again, the link is in the description below to Patreon. You can support and see the extended version of every single video that I do. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, consider supporting on Patreon. What do you think, though? I'm curious to hear your thoughts about this. What do you think this growth is attributed contributed to. I really want to know what you have to say about that. If you do support on Patreon, by the way, you get a weekly Q&A, or whenever you if you have questions, and priority for video submissions for future videos, potential videos that I do. I love you very much. God bless you. Lord willing, I'll talk to you soon. Take care. Goodbye.